Hi, I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. Today, we're going to be talking about radical self-love with Sonya Renee Taylor. Sonya Renee Taylor is a world-renowned activist, artist, transformational thought leader, author of 6 books, including The Body Is Not an Apology, which was a New York Times bestseller, and the founder of the international movement and digital media and educational company of the same name. This work has reached millions of people by exploring the intersections of identity, healing, and social justice using a radical self-love framework. She continues to speak, teach, write, create, and transform lives globally. And we have known each other for about 20 years since we met in the poetry world, and I just have adored her since then. And recently she made a post on Instagram that had me reach out and say, oh my God, I have to have you on the show to talk about this. So welcome, Sonya.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much, Marie Elizabeth, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to have this conversation. And you are coming to us from South America.
Yes,
today?
I'm in Ecuador today, and literally today. I move in such a way now that who knows where I'll be tomorrow. But today I'm in Ecuador.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I'm in Mexico, so here we are, both south of the border. I love it. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about, you spoke recently about an experience you had where your body really communicated to you clearly, and it was a new revelation. And I want to talk about that because it really hit me. And can you share that story?
Yeah, happily. So, I think it's important to say that I realized since having this experience that my body's been trying to communicate with me for a very long time. And it's been incremental in terms of my ability to listen. And I think this particular day, I realized that the communication was even more nuanced than I realized it was. So I would say I started getting hives back in 2006. It's the first time I ever experienced hives. And I had just moved to Los Angeles, and I whole full body hives. I went to the emergency room. We didn't know what it was, what caused it. Later on, I got boils. It was like my body was like the seven
plagues. That's exactly. It's so biblical. Your body is so biblical.
So biblical. And I was like, what am I being told? And I never actually made the connection, although today I understand I was being told, get out of Los Angeles. And so that was the first time that ever happened. And again, I just never knew what it was. I just thought things were happening. And then last year, in March of last year, I went vegan. And all of a sudden, I would start noticing that I'd get hives when I was contemplating eating something I wasn't supposed to eat.
Wow.
I'd be like, I have a hive. I guess I shouldn't have that, whatever I was about to have. And there's a lot inside of that. There was a lot I was working through, a lot around food and relationship and all that stuff that was coming up. And so I started being able to correlate hives with when I was about to do something, usually food related, that I wasn't supposed to do. But in this conversation that I was having, I was on a meeting with my team members from my company. And we've been planning lots of different things because we are in our year of completion. The Body Is Not an Apology is winding down and new things are emerging. And so there are lots of activities that we are doing as offerings for the year of completion. And I'm a leader who has a bazillion ideas. And so I'm like, oh, this, oh, that. And bless my team's heart because they are very patient with me while also being like, no. So,
oh my God, I need a team like that, please.
Yeah. And so we were having this meeting and I noticed a hive. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm not even doing anything. And I was like, is there something I'm not supposed to eat later? And then one of my many ideas popped up about, something that was going to be long-term later on that I was getting ready to put on my team's plate. There was additional work. And I thought, and I was like, oh, I did want to tell you all. is that the thing I'm not supposed to say? So literally, I'm in a conversation with myself, like, I just had a thought, but is that the thought I'm not supposed to say? And then I was like, well, I think I'm maybe not supposed to say that. And so I was like, all right, I won't say it. And then the hive went away. And I was like, oh my gosh.
like that's what I want to highlight for our listeners. It's like the bodily reaction occurred before the thought even reached your conscious mind.
My conscious mind. And this is what I've been thinking about. This is what makes this so magical and miraculous, is and actually really scientifically sound, is that, you know, we are always moving with and responding to energy. Life is just energy. And thoughts are our attempt as humans to put language and form to energy. So the energy is first. And then in order for us to understand the shape and form of the energy, we create thought. And then thought moves into action. But our bodies don't need language to understand energy. It's how we've survived. You could feel us or sense a thing and know your behind needed to get out of a place, whether you had language for it or not.
Yeah, whether you could even see the thing.
Whether you could see the thing, you could sense the thing. And that was an evolutionary development for our survival. And so my body knows energetically when I'm about to think a thought that is not going to be in alignment, when I'm about to take an action that's not going to be in alignment, that's not in my highest good. My body is already discerning the energy before I, Sonya, the brain, has consciously processed that. And so I'm learning through this experiment with hives to recognize that my body is telling me things before my mind could ever tell me a thing. And if I learn to listen to my body, then I don't even have to start processing it in my mind. The body already told me the answer.
Yes. And the body knows. You know, and the thing is, many of us have such a tortured relationship with our bodies, with our minds, that filter isn't as clear, right? And so I want to really also highlight the years of work you've put into discernment and into uncovering the layers of love and not love within yourself to be able to get to the point where you've cleaned off your filter enough to have this communication be happening so clearly and rapidly.
Yeah. I mean, and again, that's years. Like I said, the first time I got hives was 2006, and I stayed in Los Angeles for 2 years. Wow. I did not know what was happening. I didn't understand that my body was responding to something that, you know, I had not figured out how to consciously language yet. And now this practice, and it really has been, you know, I would say certainly it's been since 2014 or 15, but the truth being, I would say that this integration of learning how to listen to both my body as an indicator of deeper information that I may not understand consciously yet has started since, I would say, around 2013. But I would say in the last 3 years, I've closed the gap in such a way that now it's very immediate. It's funny. I had hives right before we started talking. And I was like, I'm not doing anything. I was like, this is so weird. What was happening? And then you got on and you were like, no, I want to have this conversation about this thing. And I was like, oh, that's what.
Now, did they go away? Or are they still here?
They are gone. It's gone.
Ah, okay, that's amazing. Wow. I know, I kind of clenched for a minute because I was like, oh, I hope the hives weren't about me.
That's such an interesting process in this, is like trying to figure out what it is, right? And being like, is it this? So the other day, I was making myself a fruit bowl, and, you know, like I said, there's all this gorgeous tropical fruit here, and I'm making a fruit bowl with granola and, you know, chia seeds and papaya and all this great stuff. And then I break out in some hives, and I'm like, what's happening? And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this. Clearly, there's nothing wrong with this fruit bowl. So I eat the fruit bowl. In 5 minutes, my body's like, reject this fruit bowl. Instantly gone.
Wow.
Just ran right through me. And I was like, oh, my body's just so clear all the time. And I'm like, what would it be? I'm practicing. What does it mean to listen in such a way that I would be like, throw the fruit bowl out, Sonya? I'm not quite there yet.
No,
I mean, right?
but that's such a perfect example of what's possible and what we actually do in the face of what's possible, right? Because it's hard. It's like there's a lot of conditioning that stands in between us and throwing away the fruit bowl. Number one, fruit bowl equals healthy. Number two, wasting food is bad. Number three, expense. Number, like there's all the things, right? And so and even if that's not conscious, it's still operating. So then to just be moving as clearly as, oh, fruit bowl, no. Okay, fruit bowl, no. But that is what's possible, but that's like a pinnacle that's pretty hard to live at all the time.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's I'm like, this is obviously what life is trying to gift me, right? Is the kind of intuitive relationship with my body where I trust it so completely that I would be like, despite the list of conditionings about why you don't throw out the fruit bowl, it doesn't matter because my body knows better. Like that's right.
Yeah. What's coming to mind is, I don't know if I ever told you this, but before Taylor and I got divorced, I was sick for probably about 2 years or more. I think I started not feeling well in about 2008. And some of it was, it was thyroid. I mean, it was diagnosable stuff, but I just got sicker and sicker and sort of adrenal exhaustion and all the things. And finally, I think it was toward the end of 2011. So it had been about 3 years since I started to not feel good. I had this realization because I was approaching not feeling good as something wrong with me, right? And something wrong, like, oh, I'm broken, I need to be fixed, right? And we were doing some couples therapy, things like that, just to deepen our connection and all of the things. And what happened at the end of 2011 was I had this epiphany when I went away on a dive trip and had some space to be in the water with the animals that I love. I realized, oh my God, it's not that I'm broken and incapable of sustaining a healthy long-term relationship, is that I'm not happy in this one.
Yeah.
And it was my body that was trying to tell me that.
Yeah.
But I was interpreting it as me being wrong and bad, that me being a failure, and trying to fix it with supplements and exercise and body work and therapy, all the things, instead of just getting really, really quiet and asking, like, hey, what are you trying to communicate? What do I need to know? And it took actually getting some space to have the download land. And I went back, we had a conversation, we kind of were working for 6 more months on, like, can we shift our relationships in the way that I need? And it turned out that we couldn't, and we split amicably, and he went on to have a wonderful marriage and has 2 kids, and I've gone on to meet the love of my life, so it all worked out. But I could have probably, like you, saved some time, 2 years of Los Angeles, 3 years of sickness for me, if we had known to listen sooner, And
it's such an interesting, what comes to me as I think about this gift that is our bodies communicate, like, and this idea of radical self-love is like, what? We aren't taught to think of our bodies as communicating love lovingly to us, right?
No, we're not.
We're not. And so, of course, when something is wrong, it's like, oh, I'm wrong. I messed up. I'm failing, or I need to fix this, or I'm broken, as opposed to my body loves me so much. It wants me to know this so that I don't have to suffer. Like, what a loving.
Would you say that again? I really feel like that has to be said a second time. Would you say that again?
my body loves me so much that it is trying to communicate to me such that I don't have to suffer. Like, what a profound gift.
It is a profound gift.
Profound gift. And if we can orient to that, if we can understand that, right, as really what our bodies are offering us, like it has the ability to, like shift the entire cosmos as it relates to how it is that we are in relationship with our own beings.
Absolutely. And that is so key, that piece of the communication of the body, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's painful, even if it's just trying to get our attention. And very often we haven't listened to the subtle cue. Like 5 steps back, there might have been a simple tightening of the stomach. There might have been a shoulder that went, there might have been, like a head muscle that went, and we didn't hear it. And then the signals get louder. And unfortunately, many of us don't listen. Because again, we don't have training. Again, our default is that symptoms equals wrong equals bad. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying don't get medical care, like, let's be clear. Like, if there's a medical condition.
Relational, right? Like, these are,
right.
It's not an either or. As soon as we're inside of that dichotomy, we're actually just out of it. Alignment, right? Because radical self-love says, no, I want you to think about all the things that could be not working right now. And some of those things, and then some of those things some experts know. So how about y'all get together with all your knowledge and sort
like
it
the
out.
Inner team and the outer team.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would love to, let's say somebody is kind of more on the starting edge of listening to their body and kind of shifting to hear what the body is communicating as love for the first time. Can you think back to what were some helpful either thought processes or practices that helped you begin to ground this for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty convinced that this work of radical self-love is what's allowed me to be able to be at this point now in this kind of intimate relationship with my body. As long as I was relating to my body as an enemy, then it couldn't tell me anything I wanted to listen to. As long as I related, right? I was like, I'll trust you, right? And so I've had to develop a foundational relationship that assumes that me and my body are on the same team, that assumes that my body is inherently divine and wise and loving, and that I'm inherently worthy as I am, which allows me to then listen to my body, to hear it, and to not hear it through the lens of you failing, wrong, disappointing entity that I'm, attached to for the rest of my existence. And so, that is why the work of the body is not an apology has been so pivotal in even getting to this point. And so I would tell folks, first and foremost, is you actually have to start thinking about what's your existing relationship with your body. If you have an existing relationship of animosity and drudgery and misery with your body
and inconvenience
right, and it's just not doing what it needs to do again, then you're not going to be able to hear the messages it's trying to give you, because you're not going to listen from a place of assumption that it's in service to your highest good. And so getting clear about what that foundational relationship is right now, and then beginning the work of rectifying that, I believe, is the first place to start. How is it that I'm currently thinking about my body? What have I been conditioned to believe about my body? How is that serving me? How is that not serving me? What is a new way of, in the body, it's not an apology in my book, I call it thinking, doing, and being. And so first it's about raising those thoughts to consciousness. What are the ideas that I'm currently living with as it relates to my body? And then if I were to choose to interrupt those thoughts, if I would choose to act in opposite action, what would I do that would be different?
Yeah.
And then now that I'm practicing doing something new, and I'm doing that over a period of time, it gives me a different way of being with my body. And now that I'm in a different way of being with my body, I can hear it differently. It says new things to me. And we have a relationship of camaraderie and allyship instead of animosity and angst.
Thank you. And listeners, if you haven't read her book yet, which I did years ago and loved it and sent it to everybody and all the things, like if you have not read The Body Is Not an Apology Yet, go get it. That's my plug. But back to, I love hearing the way you talk about it, because it's actually so similar to how I work with people's thought trains in the mind also, that we have these parts of ourselves, and just like the body, in the brain, like our critic or our judge or our this or our that. And everybody in here loves us and wants the best for us, but it doesn't always communicate in the way that feels good. Like it might sound like self-hatred. And that can be really hard to understand. Well, how is my self-hatred coming from love? But you have to, again, start with that assumption, just like you laid out so beautifully for the body, that these parts of us that are us are everybody in here loves us and wants the best for us and is trying to communicate. And sometimes what happens, like a toddler who's screaming and doesn't get heard, they scream louder. I mean, it's kind of not unlike that. And how do we come from the place where even if the communication is difficult to hear and sometimes even downright debilitating, like my head can shred me sometimes, but how do you still stay on the same team and recognize, okay, I don't like what's happening right now. I don't like what I'm feeling in my body. I don't like what I'm hearing in my mind. But if I were to come from same team, what new thought could emerge? What new sensation could show me? And what new direction and action could I take? So thank you. I love that. So I want to hear a bit about what's next for you. Is it even formulated enough to talk about, or is it still very much in the ethers?
I think some things are starting to take shape and some things still feel very amorphous, and we'll see where they go. So in our year of completion, The Body Is Not an Apology is producing a documentary to detail this and we're super excited about it. It's going to be such a gift to us, such a gift to the community. So we're really excited. We had a really amazing meeting with some producers and filmmakers this week to begin this, like, oh, what will this look like? So that's one offering that we are currently putting into place. And then I have lots of, today I was just like, oh, I have a lot of things. Sometimes I think I feel like I'm not doing anything. And then I'm like, girl, you're doing a lot of
I so know that feeling.
Yes, right? It can just kind of all get lost in the clouds. And then once it gets material again, you're like, that's a lot of stuff on that plate.
Yeah.
I have a new children's book coming out in the fall. It is called The Book of Radical Answers, Real Questions from Real Kids Just Like You. And it is kids ages 10 to 14 who submitted questions to me about all manner of subject matter. You name the subject, these kids asked about it. They asked about race and gender. They asked about religion and God. They asked about puberty, and they asked about parental affairs. Literally, these kids asked all the questions. And from a radical self-love framework, Auntie Sonya answers these questions. Or I had a bevy of experts who are far more articulate and experienced in certain subject matter. We have Kate Bornstein writing about gender. We've got my sister who is an adoptee writing about adoption. We've got all kinds of just brilliant folks bringing their particular expertise to some of the specific questions. But I believe it's going to be phenomenal for young people, and I think it's going to be phenomenal for grownups too.
That sounds amazing.
I'm excited.
Just to bring light to all those kinds of questions from a radical self-love perspective is so key and different than what's usually talked about.
Yeah. And it's, the kids ask such frank, astute. I was like, the kids are all right.
Right.
The kids are all right. They are asking such important, powerful, necessary questions about how it is that we become better humans to ourselves and to each other. And I feel honored to be able to extend some ideas about what I think that could be. And so I'm really excited about it. That'll be out in the fall. And pre-orders are available now. I haven't released it. You're kind of the first place where I'm saying, hey, go pre-order the book. So
right on. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And then I am currently working on a memoir project, which feels like the inhale that you just did, but it feels that way in my body. Every day I'm like, wow, this is big. And it feels like one of the main reasons that I came to this planet is to put this particular piece of work out. And so, yeah, I'll be spending a lot of time deep diving into the story of my own healing, the story of my mother's healing, the story of our collective healing, and magic and power and all the good things. So I'm really excited about that too.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank
Can
you.
I want to, this just flashed, which is why I'm going to say it. This just flashed in my brain. So I may not have like great words on it, but I'm just going to say it the way it occurred.
Yes, I love that.
Can we talk a bit about, as you speak, what the word that keeps flashing in my mind is generosity. The generosity of the way that you have opened yourself, your life, your time, like your mind, your body, all the things, not only to create community around some of the deepest sources of pain in our culture, body, race, gender, class, like all, right? Like it just occurs. There's such a deep generosity that I feel in your spirit. Can you talk a bit about that? I don't know exactly. I don't have a proper thing formulated, but it's just like, to me, it lands with me as such a generous thing for you, not only to be doing your work at such a deep level with you for your own liberation, but then to be opening and have created such a huge space for the collective to do this too.
I was saying that I recently started describing myself as a pass-through station for abundance. And part of what I realized, I started noticing that there were these very clear, concrete patterns, because I've always thought of myself as a person who, like, if it's me, it can't just be me. There got to be other people. And so I would be, it would be silly of me not to share what I'm getting because there's somebody else who needs it too. So I've always thought that way. But then I started seeing that it wasn't just ideas, it wasn't like, oh, just ideas is the way in which I share things that come to me. I realized that, like, every time I transition into a new phase of life, I end up giving away all the things that were in my house, which I don't think I ever consciously realized until the last time that I did it, where it felt much more like a very intentional spiritual directive. And I had a lot more stuff because I'm older and collected some things, and now I got nice shit, right? And I'm like, wait, I have to give away all nice shit.
Nice shit.
Right. But what I realized is that part of what my role is in this lifetime is to have experiences come through me because they are for the collective. That, the nice couch wasn't ever mine. I just got to borrow it for a little bit until it went to who it was supposed to go to. And so, I feel like in some ways, like, generosity denotes this idea of, like, I'm giving what was mine. And I actually don't relate to it as that. It was never mine because, and now I'm going to get real Buddha Zen here, but it was never mine because there's no me, right? Like,
yes, amen.
There's
right.
no separation, right? And
exactly.
So because there's no separation, whatever it is that comes through me is for the collective because I am just merely an extension of all of us. And we all are.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're singing my song. I feel the same way. It's kind of like the Bodhisattva vow I feel on your life and on my life. And it's just kind of like, even this house, having this gorgeous place where we live in Mexico, I'm so clear that I bought this house not for us. Like, it's for the people who get to come through here, who get to heal here, who get to be here, who get to wake up here, because it's all ours in the end,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I really, I just love for people to get to hear that perspective, because it's just so counter to what a lot of thought leaders, people I see in the space, publicly, visibly, few people operate like that, like, or have that depth of understanding. And so, it just makes me so happy when I feel that and see that and experience that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've all been conditioned to, certainly, inside of these sort of Western imperialist systems, inside of white supremacy and capitalism, that it's mine and the job is for me to accumulate. And actually, that accumulation is how I know I'm worth anything, right? And so the journey of radical self-love, which reminds me that I'm inherently worthy and there's nothing the world can add to or take away from that, then demands that I engage with all of this so differently. Like, there's not a bottomless hole that I'm trying to fill with things anymore.
Yes.
Which means that everything is for all of us, for all of our enjoyment, for all of our growth, for all of our development. And that the greatest thing that I get to experience in life is getting to be that channel, right? Getting to be a vessel for what wants to get to the collective, and then getting to see it in the hands of the collective and the hearts of the collective.
Yeah, that's huge. And do you find that because you're able to have that perspective, the word that's occurring is flow. It's like, it feels like you're in the flow, right?
Much more comes to me because I'm not blocking it or hoarding it, or, and what I've actually been working on for myself, inside of these indoctrinations is like, right, well, I've had a really specific idea about what I'm allowed to have come to me without it being, greedy, or now I'm in the system and that sort of thing. And the shift is, if it is supposed to go to the collective, then why would I have any kind of cap on what it is that is allowed to come through me? My job is simply to allow it to come through me. And whatever it is, I know is going out to the rest of the world. So who am I to be putting any kind of limits on what it is that desires to come through me to get to whoever it's supposed to get to?
Yes. That reminds me, one of my teachers a while back said, when we're very tight and specific about how the things have to come in a certain way or look like, needs to be a partner, like, and they need to be 6 feet tall and they need to look like this, and blah, blah, blah. That all our specificity of that kind of gripping around what we want, aside from coming from the kind of hungry ghost hoarding thing. It's like asking God, or if that's not your word, the universe, like asking, that to work through a straw.
Right.
And it's like, why would I ask that to work through a straw?
Right, a little tiny cocktail straw.
Yeah, like a tiny because that's all I can handle.
Right.
And it's like, what if we, like you've done so beautifully, what if we were to actually expand our capacity to be those vessels, to be those channels, to be those places through which whatever wants to come through can come through, because it is for all of us. That's a much better way to live, I think.
Yeah. I'm like, make me an ocean. Make me an ocean.
Yes, absolutely. Make me an ocean. So I understand you have a gorgeous free gift for our listeners. Can you say a bit about that? It's an e-course.
Sure. Yeah. So for folks who have spent any time on The Body Is Not an Apology, You used to be able to sign up on a newsletter and you would get daily affirmations in your inbox from me. That actually still exists. But if you don't wish to have them doled out day by day, we've compiled all of the affirmations into a beautiful ebook of daily affirmations that were written and created by me for just more powerful, authentic, embodied ways that we get to move through our life and face the next challenge that is before us, and embrace the next blessing that wants to come to us. And so all of your listeners get a copy of our free daily affirmation ebook from The Body's Not an Apology.
That's wonderful. So the link to that will be down in the show notes. You can also check out all of Sonya's links in the show notes, including her Patreon, which I think is really, can you say a word about why you're on Patreon and what happens there? Because I just think it's such a beautiful thing that you've created.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've thought a lot about lately and been sort of in my own dialogue and sort of thought process around is this idea of right relationship, and what does it mean to one as a new economic system, as a system outside of capitalism that isn't about how much can I get from you and keep for myself, but is instead about how do we engage in a reciprocitous exchange that honors our inherent dignity, our inherent care, and that ensures that all of us get to thrive. And I think that social media has really truncated our ability to do that by making you the product, by making, the reason it's free is because you're the product that they sell to advertisers, et cetera, et cetera. And instead, what I was interested in my digital community is for us to again be inside a right relationship, which means if you feel like you get something out of what I share, and I continue to share those ideas on my Patreon, my amazing director of digital learning, Shannon, turns these ideas into curriculum, and where we spend the month sort of going through these ideas and looking at complementary other books and movies and podcasts that are deep diving into these ideas and really getting us a foundation of how to live into some of the practices that I might just talk about for 9 minutes on a What's Up, y'all. We do that there. And it's also the place where I get to share about my inner life. So there are pictures from Ecuador and all of my journeys and what I'm learning and all of those sorts of things. So it's an opportunity to be in community and in relationship and in reciprocity, where it isn't just like I go and absorb the things from your place and then I go on about my business and I apply it to my life and I act like you never existed, or I wait for Instagram to pay you for that. Instead, I say, let's be in a relationship where if you feel like you get something awesome, contribute on a monthly basis, and I will continue to offer my contribution, and together we get to sort of dine at the table of love and learning together.
I love that. Any final thoughts?
One, I just want to thank you for having me. I want to thank you for following your yes into creating this platform. And I'm so clear that all of us have an assignment as it relates to making the new world. And I'm just glad that you're following you.
Thank you. Back at you. So this has been Radical Self-Love with Sonya Renee Taylor. All the links are below. And thank you so much for listening. And until next time, remember that a great relationship starts with you.